What's the best loophole you've ever discovered? Today I'm sharing the most ingenious system exploits people have found, from free parking hacks to casino bonuses that paid for entire summers. Stay till the end for the wildest stories and don't forget to subscribe. Story 1. It's probably too late, but I'll share mine anyway. About 5 years ago, my husband and I impulsively bought brand new Galaxy watches. We ended up with major buyer's remorse, so we returned them the next day. About a week later, we unexpectedly got a little chunk of change. When we went back to buy them again, our exact watches were on sale as an open box discount. We still joke about how we beat the system. Story 2. An ex-colleague of mine lost his car parking ticket one day and discovered that the car park near our work charges you $5 if you lost your ticket, not in addition to what you would have paid, just $5. The daily rate to park there from 9 a.m. to about 5 p.m. was 9 centavos from memory. After making this discovery, on the days he drove to the office, he would park there from 9 to 5, and when leaving would tell the car park attendant he lost his ticket and would only be charged $5 instead of the higher rate he would have otherwise paid for parking. I never had the courage to do it. Story 3. UK entertainment retailer HMV used to sell headphones with an additional extended warranty that cost $2 to buy. If the headphones broke, you could bring them back and get a brand new pair for no additional cost beyond the $2 for the warranty, though they also allowed you to buy a warranty on the brand new replacement pair. This meant that for about 4 to 5 years, I was able to get brand new headphones costing in the region of £60 annually for $2 at a time, because I would have been at university at this time. I was tossing the headphones into my bag and shoving the headphone jack into my iPod in my pocket with reckless abandon, causing either the left or right ear to stop working. With these practices, it makes sense that the company went into administration at some point during this time. Story 4. Back in the early 2000s, Seattle apartment buildings also rented parking. You pay a month's parking fee, make a deposit for a garage door opener, and that's it. No tag whatsoever. Either you had their garage door clicker or you didn't. I moved around a bit across the city, so I would pay for parking for a month and just keep the clickers and forego the $30 or so for each remote. I figured there's no way building managers will reprogram remotes for all their residents every 6 months, so I'd at least be able to keep parking for 6 months, which would save me $400, $600. Turns out they did not reprogram remotes ever. I stayed in Seattle for 6 years, and I had free secure parking in at least 4 neighborhoods across the city. Story 5. This one is an old school, low-tech one. We're talking 50 years ago. Soda vending machines used to contain bottles loaded horizontally with the cap facing out. There was a pawl-like piece of metal that would prevent the bottle from being removed until money was inserted. The bottle was wider behind the pawl. Some smart aleck figured out that you could get a glass and a bottle opener and just pop off the cap and let the soda pour out into the glass. Story 6. I got $30K for free. Disclaimer, not in US. During my degree, I was on a full university scholarship that completely waived my tuition fees, provided I maintained grades above a certain threshold. This scholarship was offered directly by the university based on my strong academic performance in a national exam. Separately, there was a government scholarship meant for students from low-income households. Since my family wasn't well off and I got strong academic results on the national exam, I qualified for the government scholarship. Knowing how disconnected government systems can be, there was likely no coordination between the government scholarship program and the university system. So despite already having my tuition covered, I successfully applied and received $30K from the government scholarship, money I technically didn't need because of my full university scholarship. That's how I ended up with $30K before I even graduated. Story 7. There's a vending machine in the staff room at my job, and it's a complete piece of junk. Food often gets stuck, especially the bags of chips. If this happens, the machine does at least automatically refund the money if you paid by card. So you just buy another item, use it to knock the first one down, and boom, 2 for 1. This machine is staff only, but none of the items are cheaper because of it. They're actually more expensive than the public machines. It has also stolen many people's coins over the years, so I don't feel bad for occasionally getting a free bag of chips. Story 8. I live in a remote rural area. We don't get UPS packages delivered on Tuesdays or Thursdays. When I order from Amazon, it gives me the option to choose Friday delivery with a $1 $2 coupon for digital orders. I always choose that option because I'm not getting a Tuesday/Thursday delivery anyway, so I stack the coupons and get a bunch of Kindle books for free. Story 9. This is a pretty well-known one by now, but a lot of places won't let you cancel reservations after a certain period, like usually 48 hours before arrival date. Hotels are notoriously bad with this, and even worse if you booked with a third-party website like Kayak or Travelocity. But oftentimes, rescheduling your reservation has no fee and can be done no problem. So if you ever need to cancel and you're past the point of being able to just call the hotel or booking agency, reschedule for another week or month, then call the next day to cancel. Your booking is now far out enough to fall under their return policy, so they can't deny you the refund. This has worked for me even when using third-party sites, which I don't do anymore because they all suck. Story 10, they cottoned on pretty quickly, but a few years back I managed to purchase some buy one, get one free meals from Tesco that were also yellow stickered. The system hadn't been updated to remove the offer, which meant I ended up effectively being paid to take the food home. For example, I bought 2 ready meals that were originally priced at $2 each. Normally, they would have cost $2 total with the BOGOF offer, but since they were further reduced to something like 40p each, the full promotion still applied. When I scanned them, the total came to 80p, but the system also refunded me $2. Story 11. My brother and I absolutely rinsed casino sign-up bonuses one summer. Basically, the casinos would give you a chunk of bonus cash when you signed up and deposited some money, hundreds of dollars. You couldn't withdraw this money until you'd done a certain amount of gambling. Essentially, we'd do the bare minimum of gambling on whichever allowed game had the best odds, normally blackjack or a video poker variant. The amount we'd lose would on average be a tiny fraction of the bonus, so we'd be uploads. Then we'd take out the money and move on to the next casino. We did hundreds, best summer job ever. We later chatted online to a dude who discovered an even better loophole. One of the online payment companies, I want to say Neteller, was both accepted by a bunch of casinos and let you change your details to whatever you like. So he found the best bonus and did the same one many times. Casino bonuses are terrible these days. The wagering requirements mean you'll never get your hands on the bonus. Story 12. My dad figured out a good one back in the day. Just like they do now, back then cable companies would give you a free weekend trial of a premium channel, HBO, Cinemax, etc., in an effort to get more people to sign up for those channels and pay more. However, our cable company's method of giving you access to the special channel was to send a signal to your cable box which unlocked the channel. To turn off the channel at the end of the free trial, another signal was sent. My dad figured out that the signal to lock it was only sent for a short period of time, so before the end of the free weekend, he would unplug the cable box and then plug it back up the next day. Since the box never got the signal, we would have a free premium channel for a while. Usually after a month or two, it would get shut off, so we'd have to wait for the next free trial weekend. Story 13. I used to work at Papa John's to pay my way through college. There was a contest we had where if you got someone to upsize their pizza from like a medium to a large for an extra $2, you got points towards movie tickets. A large was simply $2 extra normally anyways. Anyone that ordered a large, I simply put in as a medium and upsized it. I won every week. My coworkers didn't notice this obvious loophole, and it didn't cost the customer extra, so I didn't have a problem with this morally gray area. Free movie tickets every week was huge in college. Story 14. My high school had a rule that banned you from attending prom if you went to a Saturday detention that semester. I got in trouble and was assigned a Saturday detention, but my girlfriend really wanted to go to prom. I just kept skipping it, and they kept adding more until they rolled it into a day of actual suspension. They had no rule barring you from prom for an out-of-school suspension, so I got a day off and took my girl to prom. Story 15. Couple years ago, Wawa started adding self-checkout to their stores. I quickly found out that you could screenshot a coupon on the Wawa app, free coffee, hoagie, sizzly, etc., and the self-checkout scanner would scan the code as many times as you want. I worked at the beach and would always make a Wawa trip for lunch. I'd get hoagies for the whole work crew that whole summer without paying a dime. Eventually, they patched the system and the coupons only worked at the main register. All said and done, though, I saved hundreds, if not nearly $1,000, on food that summer. Story 16. Not really a loophole, but in the same vein as some of the other comments, DeviantArt.com used to let you gift core membership, which made the site ad-free and gave you some other premium goodies. For the holidays, they had a buy one, get one free thing where if you gifted someone a month of core, you'd get a month for yourself. It was an easy gift for everyone in my community, and I got free membership too. Well, after about the 16th purchase, they blocked me from buying anything else on their site. I pulled in over a year's worth of membership for free, and all my friends got something that was pretty coveted for that time. Story 17. There was a loophole in Sweden on Libero diapers. They sent out coupons to new parents, and the coupons could be used in self-checkout, and you only had to scan it and you could keep it. So every time we bought diapers, we could use almost every one we've got, adding up to 50 to 80% off every time. It worked for a year, I think, before they fixed it. Story 18. I worked for a small gold refinery in Australia. We have a tax called GST, Goods and Services Tax, which is about 10%. The loophole was that we would have to pay a company GST when they sold us scrap gold, but they wouldn't have to pay GST if they bought bullion gold. So they would sell us a bunch of scrap bars, likely melted down bullion, claim the 10% tax on top, and then we would melt it all down, test purity, and make more bullion, which they would buy tax-free. It was something like that anyway. I spent weeks melting the same gold over and over again, getting paid overtime for my work. It was a good hustle for them and good business for us. We were above board according to the Australian tax office when they audited us after a few months of doing this. Story 19. I used to live in NYC and would travel quite a bit. I had a car in the city, wouldn't recommend. And me and my wife figured out it was cheaper to park in a neighborhood in Queens outside of JFK, walk over to the airport and just get a parking ticket and pay it than it would have been if we just parked at the airport for an extended amount of time. Story 20. Around 2009 to 2011, Studio Movie Grill was offering free movie tickets on their Facebook just for giving them your email address. I had a relatively new Gmail account, so I could do the whole email address plus something to register tons and tons of emails and get the tickets. Me and all my friends saw a lot of free movies that summer. It wasn't really stealing since in theory the whole point was to get you in the door and then you buy food and drinks, since it was a new theater concept with nicer seats, ordering food at your seat, etc. Common now, but we were all poor college kids, so we only got free water. The chain was never crowded when we went, so worst case we were just taking up some free waters but not the seats of paying customers. Story 21. This is no longer relevant, but it saved me hundreds and probably thousands of dollars. In 1998, I bought a digital cell phone from AT&T that only had 90 minutes of talk time per month. The rep at the store told me that to save on my minutes, I could forward my number to my home phone and I wouldn't be charged minutes. I asked what would happen if I forwarded to a different area code, and he told me that there is still no charge. Back in the 90s, long distance was very expensive by the minute, so I discovered that I could call my girlfriend who was an hour away and technically long distance by just forwarding my number to her number and calling my own cell phone. There was no charge for this talk time because it was a local call for me. I would get 10-page phone bills and would show zeros and dollars for every single one of those calls. I was 18 years old and we spoke every day, and it didn't cost me a dime. Story 22. I spent years traveling to and from work on open return train tickets. The outbound ticket would be valid for a day, but the return would be valid for a month. The times I traveled on the train were too busy for the train conductor to punch tickets, and most of the time they couldn't even move through the train. If I ever had my tickets punched, I would buy new returns. I calculated that over the 5 years I was doing this, I saved around $6,200 versus if I had bought monthly passes. Before anyone judges, I was earning just above minimum wage and had to commute 3 hours every day, and almost all of the money I saved during that time in my life was due to this train ticket scam. The money I saved led to me having enough to study a master's and switch to a career where I now earn a much better wage. Story 23. Italian restaurant my family loves had a candy claw machine. We played every time we went, but the trick we learned was if the claw closed all the way, it thought that meant you didn't get anything and would let you play till you did get something. This means we would go for individual items that would fit into the claw perfectly. One sucker, one Laffy Taffy, so it would close all the way instead of trying to get a big haul all at once. That way it wouldn't register the candy and we could keep going and going. We actually took so long once our parents made us leave before our turn was up and we still left with handfuls of candy. The best part? It only cost a quarter. They no longer have that machine. Story 24. Back when soda companies would have promotions on the underside of the bottle caps, I could tilt the soda bottles just right so I could find winners during many promotions. I paid for one initial bottle of soda to get a free bottle winning one, then continually searched and found those, never having to pay for a soda again. Story 25. Late to the party, but a small loophole I took great advantage of once was when the airport car park was changing the ticketing system to a more modern license plate recognition system. It took several weeks to roll out, and in those weeks parking wasn't charged. It was also advertised by the airport as short-term and long-term. Short-term is free for the first hour for people picking up passengers, so it's real close to the terminal. I parked for a week directly across from the arrivals exit for free. A small win, but I don't think many, if any, thought to do it. Story 26. When I was in high school, I applied for a summer job with the county. As part of the unbiased application process, each applicant was asked to take an intelligence test. The test consisted of about 80 questions. Each question was 4 or 5 line drawings, and you had to put an X in the box next to the one that didn't belong. Pretty easy. I happened to notice, though, that the test paper was two-part, 2 sheets of paper that are attached together back-to-back with a sheet of carbon paper in between. I could peel the sheets apart and look inside. The second sheet just had a bunch of boxes printed on it, and I could see from the first few questions that I'd answered that the X's I'd marked ended up in the printed boxes on the second sheet thanks to the carbon paper. So I did all the questions with obvious answers, and if I was unsure, I just peeled the paper apart, noted where the box was printed on the second sheet, and made sure I got it right. Of course I got 100%. I figure that if you can cheat on an intelligence test, you're pretty smart. Story 27. I travel for work and we have a $110 a day food limit, and you don't need a receipt for less than $50 purchases. I'm a $110 vegetarian and usually get free breakfast at the hotel, so I never spend anywhere near that much on food in a day. So I just load up on snacks and gift cards when I can. We always have a stash of Kind bars and skinny-dipped almonds from Starbucks. Whole Foods is also a great place to get gift cards, snacks, and wine to take home because most of them also serve overpriced prepared food. In a pinch, I just hit the local cheesecake factory for a gift card and a soda. The soda is so the expense looks like it's for a meal and not a nice round number like if I had bought a gift card. One of my coworkers alerted me to the fact that if you pay inside for your gas, you can also buy a bunch of snacks, so long as the total is under $50 and the snacks won't count toward your food total because it will all be expensed as gas. Story 28. A bit over 20 years ago, I started a job at a full-service gas station. Literally the day I started, they got new tills. One of the features of the system was it could interface with the car wash system and prevent people working there from just printing free ones. There was no good way of preventing it other than checking security footage constantly. Well, a week or two in, they got them interfaced, so the gravy train was over. But once I was working the till and noticed something. When you ring in a car wash, the till froze for a second or two while it talks to the car wash machine and generates a code. A few days later, someone changed their mind, saying they found an unused one in their wallet, so I voided it. That happened instantly, so I figured it voided the sale but didn't cancel the code. I memorized it, tried it, and it worked. From then on, anytime I needed a car wash, I'd hit the wrong button on the till or claim a customer changed their mind. I told nobody until my last day and told them to enjoy. Story 29. I once lived on a property with two homes that shared the same mailbox address. One month I got behind on my cable bill and they came out to disconnect me, but disconnected my neighbor's service instead. My neighbors soon called me to ask if my service was out, and I said no. There was a big football game on that day that they had planned to watch, and they were bummed. A friend of theirs who happened to work for a different cable company was visiting and asked my permission to splice a cable between the two houses so they could get service from mine. I agreed. It took them about 20 minutes, and they were back in business in time to watch their game. Once I'd figured out the reason for the original disconnect, I explained it to my neighbors, who then stopped paying their cable bill on purpose. The cable company sent out a bucket truck only to discover that their cable was already disconnected and went away satisfied. We then had free cable in both houses for the next 3 years that I lived there, with both of us having been officially disconnected. Story 30. Michigan used to have a law that a minor could not plead guilty to a crime without a lawyer. I found this out by accident when I was 13 and used it 3 more times before I was an adult. What happens is that I, as a minor, would just plead guilty. They would then give me a sentencing date and let me leave. Then a week or so later, I would get a letter stating that it is not legal for me to plead guilty without a lawyer and my case was dismissed or thrown out because of it. I got out of 3 minor in possession tickets that way. Story 31. My brother got free parking for pretty much his entire time at university. It was that golden period when the pay parking kiosks were able to accept credit cards, but before they were actually connected to the internet. They'd read a card and check it against a locally stored list of banned numbers. Once a month, the meter maid would download the transactions, process them, and update the blacklist. My brother found that they'd accept those prepaid gift cards if they were backed by Visa or MasterCard, but couldn't check the available balance. So he'd buy one, use the balance up on whatever, then use the card for parking until the end of the month when it'd get processed, found to not have funds, and banned. Rinse and repeat, the guy saved probably $2,500 over his degree. Story 32. Are there any payphones around anywhere anymore? A long time ago, I was using a payphone when there was a blackout. The electricity came back on within 5 minutes. The phone started dumping all the change into the coin return space. I must have gotten $4 or $5. It was 1978, so $4 or $5 was more then. I promptly drove to every other payphone I could find. It was a good day. Story 33. I got free designer jeans for about a decade. I finally bought a pair of expensive designer jeans at Bloomingdale's, and it was well out of my normal budget. Within 4 months, the crotch ripped and a hole developed in the pocket. I brought it back and figured maybe the salesperson would take pity on me. They did, and they said to go get any other pair of jeans. The catch was you had to have the original receipt. They'd honor it for a year, I was told, and was confirmed by an employee friend separately. So on and on this went. Around every 9 months, the jeans would literally develop some sort of problem. A zipper issue, a button fell off, and I brought back the next receipt they gave me from the last time. This went on until one day I must have caught the store manager or something. They attached both receipts to some kind of thick card with double-sided tape, and that was the end. The first pair of jeans was maybe $150 in 2001 or so, and by the end I think I had to pay $35 over the course of that decade because the final pair were like $160 or something. Keep your receipts at major retail stores, and they honor just about anything. Story 34. When I was a kid, I lived in a town with a lot of small manufacturing shops, job shops, etc. One shop was dumping nickel-sized slugs in the scrap bin. Didn't take us kids long to figure out we could use them to get free gumballs out of the machine at a local mom-and-pop party store. The owner did end up busting us after a while. He probably thought it was unusual that we kept coming back and buying gum. Instead of getting us in trouble with our parents, he just said whenever we want a gumball to come up to the counter and he'll give us a nickel. That was quite a lesson for a kid, and I never used a slug or even asked for a nickel from there on out. I just used my own nickel if and when I had one. Story 35. I had 2 loopholes that I routinely exploited at work, and I recommend it to my employees, though none have the discipline. It lets me take 1 month of vacation each year instead of just 2 weeks. Loophole 1. All OT will be matched with PTO, paid vacation time. Loophole 2. Clocking in 5 minutes early and clocking out 5 minutes late will count as OT, but not require manager approval. By clocking in 5 minutes early to start my shift, out 5 minutes late for lunch, 5 minutes early to come back from lunch, and out 5 minutes late at end of shift, I got 20 minutes of paid OT and 20 minutes of vacation time each day I worked. Each year we get 80 hours of PTO, but with my scheme I get an extra 83 hours and 20 minutes, and that's not counting any extra PTO I received when asked to work overtime. Story 36. I joined the military for what was supposed to be a 6-year commitment. I was a reservist and had to go to basic training and A school to be a radio man. That took 8 months, and then I was released from active duty and had to go to meetings once a month and 2 weeks of duty in the summer. I found out that a reservist could only spend 2 years total of active duty, so I said screw the meetings and just stopped going. That was, of course, not acceptable to them, U.S. Coast Guard, so they ordered me to active duty on board a cutter ported in New York City. I had some fun there. After 16 months, they had to give me an honorable discharge, so I actually spent 2 years and 8 months total in the Coast Guard instead of 6 years. Worked out well. Story 37. Not mine, but many years ago, a woman was attending college in Texas and paying out-of-state tuition. She found out that if you were a business owner in the state, you could get in-state tuition. She spent a few bucks to file for a business and saved thousands. Story 38. A marathon gas station held a contest during March Madness where if you correctly guessed the final 4 teams, you got a free entry, $300. The rules ended at 11:59 p.m., the day of those games, so I just waited until they were complete, came back, and posted the correct teams. They had some serious reservations on whether that was legit, but they still gave me the entry. Story 39. Got to have money and great credit for this one, but it was good. Family member owned a transportation company. When they started getting bigger, he bought 5 semi-tractors and leased them back to the company. The company leased tractors anyway, and he leased the newer ones back at a lower cost than the others they were leasing. It was a closely held company. No one was going to complain about self-dealing. That's kind of a loophole right there, but the best one was he'd make the truck loan payments, sizable amount, on a credit card and immediately pay it off each month with the lease money with more left over. The credit card had air miles. They'd fly whenever they wanted to, transferred miles to family and close friends, and never dropped below 500,000 air miles. Story 40. Opting out of courtesy pay overdraft protection at a bank or credit union does not remove your ability to overdraft. It only takes away the bank's right to charge you for overdrafting your account. If you opt out, you can still overdraft your account, but they can't charge you. It's essentially an interest-free loan whenever you need it. Results will vary from bank to bank. Story 41. I'm not sure if they do this anymore, but many years ago, while an employee at Home Goods, the store had this promotion where employees could get these scratch-off cards that reduced the cost of an item by $1, $5, or $20 each time they found a price sticker on the floor. Each card had 3 scratch-off areas, and the catch was that you could only scratch off 1. However, if you used a lamp, you could see which scratch-off area was the $20, meaning that you could very easily rack up a $20 gift card for every sticker you found on the floor. The idea was that if employees collected these fallen stickers, regular nefarious shoppers couldn't stick them on something of far greater value and check out at that price. There were no rules on how many an employee could have or combine, because most folks who worked at that store were middle-aged women who really couldn't give a damn, and most of the stuff Home Goods sells is garbage. But then there was me. a starving, broke college kid who got paid jack, but who worked in the back room unloading trucks, and who also was occasionally tasked with stocking shelves. In short, I was the only person who seemed to give a damn about this promotion, and my bosses, who wanted to show their higher-ups that they were putting the corporate programs into effect, were happy to oblige each sticker I presented with a scratch-off ticket of my own. Now, Home Goods, while normally a purveyor of fine garbage, also occasionally has very nice, very high-end housewares on the cheap comparatively. These items, like cookware, linens, comforters, etc., are more often than not usually much more expensive than the rest of the store stock and take a while to sell. For me, the guy who unloaded the trucks, this meant that when I saw something absurdly nice, I could put it very high up into a loading bay and just let it sit for a while because the senior citizens I worked with would never go up to get it. At the end of a 4-month summer, I'd amassed about $1,100 in these little gift cards, and with them I bought a full set of all-clad copper core cookware. A new piece came in once a month, a queen-size down comforter, duvet cover and sheets, pillows, nice flatware, plates and glasses, and a dozen useful kitchen tools. To this day, 10 years later, I still have all the all-clad, which alone retails for $800, and some of the kitchen tools, all of it for free. Story 42, working in a call center for a large phone company, clicking your mouse really fast on the screen caused it to go into some mode where it looks like you're waiting for a call as normal, but you'll never have a call come through. Some kid figured it out, and the trick spread to a bunch of people and was kept under wraps from management. We passed it down to others as we onboarded them if they were deemed trustworthy. Story 43. In high school, I had a physics test and we were allowed to use the internet on our laptops for it. We were told beforehand to still study as all the answers were in the textbook. So in my free period, I searched for a place that wasn't blocked by the school's firewall where I could make my own website. Once I found one, I went home, got my physics textbook CD, uploaded it to my computer, and made my own website with all the diagrams and information needed onto my own website. When we did the test, the teacher was monitoring what we were looking at. After the class, he pulled me aside and just simply said that he thought about stopping me from using the website but admired the thought I put in. He advised me to remove everything to avoid getting in trouble regarding copyright, and that next year he's going to make sure that others aren't allowed to do what I did. Story 44. Not very impressive, but at my high school we had to wear a button-down and a tie to class every day. One of the kids realized that they never specified what kind of button-down it had to be, so he wore a Hawaiian shirt to class with a tie. Technically, it met the dress code, so it stuck. Pretty soon, most of the school started wearing Hawaiian shirts with ties to class. We looked like a bunch of ridiculous Jimmy Buffett goes Mormon types, but it was worth it to beat the system. They changed the rule to ban Hawaiian shirts a week later. Story 45. I work at a well-known Australian alcohol store. Up until very recently, the online store would mark down slabs, 24 bottles, cans, of several different craft beers from $160, $70 down to $24. This would only happen if you put 24 individual cans or bottles into your cart instead of a slab. This guy would click and collect 24 individual bottles every week. Obviously, the staff I worked with weren't going to unbox a slab into 24 individual bottles, so we just gave him a slab. Management told corporate about this several times over years, but they did nothing until one day the man came in and said they had closed the loophole. However, he was still able to just click reorder and got the same price that he had already been paying. The company makes billions in profits each year, so more power to him. Total, infinite $24 slabs of craft beer. Story 46. I worked at Hollywood Video when the Xbox was new, and Microsoft offered an online program for anybody who might need to know about their console and games. In exchange for taking quizzes, I earned a bunch of points that I could redeem for new games. I took them all to Walmart, where they didn't require a receipt for some reason, and turned the games into a gift card. It worked a couple of times, but I was bringing in 5 games at a time, saying I got them for my birthday, but that I already had them. I'm pretty sure nobody believed me, but they didn't give a damn. The third time, they told me they'd have to get the manager, so I bailed. and that's how I ended up with multiple copies of Fable. Story 47, Company Party, play casino games to earn chips, turn in chips for raffle tickets. One of the tables is a poker variant. It's got all the winning hands listed on the table. Official rules per the table is that for pairs, only tens or higher payout. Dealer has decided to pay out all pairs. This little tweak flips the odds from a house-favored game to a player-favored game. None of the other tables change the odds like that. Pretty much just did that table all night, steadily growing my bets, but never so big that a couple of bad hands would wipe me out. Got a lot of raffle tickets and went home with a new TV. Story 48. This was completely unintentional, but still a hilarious loophole. I wanted to cosplay Lois Lane at a local con. I printed up a Daily Planet press badge with a picture of the actress who played Lois Lane in the Smallville TV show. I copied Lois's outfit from the Superman animated series and had a friend with me dressed as Jimmy Olsen. We went around interviewing cosplayers as a bit, which got a lot of chuckles, and we met some cool folks. Some DC Comics cosplayers even tracked us down to get pictures. However, completely by accident, we walked past a panel room with a sign that said "Press Only." A board staff member was by the door, and when he saw us, he waved us in. We were giggling but decided, let's go. The panel room was where the guest celebrities were answering press questions and promoting upcoming projects before doing meet and greets. We ended up spending most of the day in that room listening to Peter Dinklage, Alan Tudyk, and a bunch of other people chat about what they were currently working on. We didn't ask any questions because we didn't want to get caught, but it was a lot of fun. Would do again. Story 49. When I was a young ski bum, we discovered phone operators counted the coins going into the phone for long-distance calls to make sure the correct amount was paid. Quarters made one sound, dimes another. We tape-recorded $20 worth of quarters going into a payphone, with pauses at $5 increments so we could keep track, and just played the tape when the operator told us how much the call would cost. Worked like a charm all winter. Our parents were quite impressed we weren't calling them collect, and one of the guys in our cabin came from France. Story 50. In college, the local Buffalo Wild Wings would give out like 6 free wings if you did their online survey. I found out they didn't really put a limit on how many times you could do it, and I just so happened to work during the time that the cafeteria was open for Sunday dinner. I had Buffalo Wild Wings damn near every Sunday because I would get 6 free wings and something else. I was severely disappointed when I came back next year and the deal was gone. Story 51. Our local McDonald's did a grand reopening where they gave the first 100 customers a card for 1 free meal every week for a year. My brother went and waited outside to get one, but only a few people showed up. They ended up giving him an extra to hand out to friends/family, so he gave it to me. Since we hung out pretty much every night, here's where the real loophole happened. They were supposed to use a hole punch to mark you had used your free meal for the week. No one at the store bothered to buy a hole punch the entire year. We got free meals every day or two for a year, which was great for poor college kids. Story 52. The electronic ticket I use has a loophole. It works by measuring the distance between stations via GPS. Cost will be a basic fee plus a set amount per kilometer. If I go to the city, it will automatically notice when I go back and start a new fare. But if I go back one more station than I started from, it will only register a fare of one station in that direction. Saves me about €6 every trip with my kid. Story 53. In high school, a couple of friends and I discovered that you could purchase prepaid SIM cards with more balance on them than what they cost, plus get an additional $7 in cash back for every SIM card ordered. We extensively used this to fund our League of Legends skin collection. Even better, at some point the carrier blocked us from purchasing more SIM cards, but the cashback site we used still counted the purchase attempt as valid and credited our accounts. After a few months and multiple $100s for each of us, the cashback site fixed the loophole. Nowadays, most sites take months for cashback to be paid out, probably rightfully so. Story 54. We figured out that on our country's biggest website for takeout food, if you go all the way to the payment screen, then click the back button on the browser, not the website, Enter a tip for the driver and then proceed with the process. You only pay the tip and the order still gets delivered. We did this twice, and then the glitch was patched. Story 55. Used to be able to get cheap flights on EasyJet. This doesn't work anymore, so I can share it freely. We kept it secret for a while to try not to raise any alarm bells over there. Basically, with the FlexiFare, you could change departure and destination within the same price range, and you could change dates. For each route, meaning you'd pick a random flight that was cheap on selected dates and expensive on others, move it to those dates, and then choose another flight in that price range, but which you could change the dates for even more expensive. Repeat until you can get the flight you need. Regularly got $300 flights for $20. Very useful, especially to travel around the holidays. Story 56. In the 90s and maybe early 2000s, many young people had prepaid phones here, so to spare money, they use those extra service numbers where the person you call will pay for the phone call when they accept it. At the beginning of the phone call, as the number which was used to call the people was unknown to the receiver, you had a few seconds to tell your name so the person you call will know who is calling. But in practice, it was mostly used like this. This is a call from "Meet me at the bar at 6, Johnny. Do you want to accept this call and pay for it?" Then hang up. No one had to pay this way. Just stay short in your message. Story 57. The Chamber of Commerce does those coupon books each year where if you buy a large fry at Sonic, you get a small for half off. McDonald's lets you get an upgraded combo size, etc. I've never bought one, but my boss at the time gave me a free one. Both of the pizza places in town had a buy one, get one free for any size pizza. My family got free large pizzas at least twice a week for that whole year. The next year it was something like buy one pizza, get a free drink, but that first year was glorious. Story 58. Back in the 1960s, the school district in my hometown was broken up and absorbed into the surrounding districts. Fast forward to 2003, I'm applying to colleges. I discovered that there is a scholarship fund for people living in that old district's area. The district is gone, but the scholarship still exists. I applied and got the scholarship. I don't think there were any other applicants. Story 59. The local radio station always had a contest where you call when they play the same artist back to back so you can win a prize. Then I learned they had a Now Playing and Up Next feature on their website. My girlfriend at the time would start calling in before the second song even came on and won a ton of prizes, including laptops. Story 60. A few years ago, before I could drive, I used to get the bus to work. I would spend about $80 a month on a 4-week bus pass. On the app on my phone, when I would buy the pass, it would stay on the app unused until I clicked the button, then it would start counting down 4 weeks. I figured out if I bought a 4-week ticket and backed up my phone whilst it's unused, I could then reinstall the backup after a month and have a new unused 4-week ticket. I did this for about 3 years and saved nearly $3,000. I'm still happy about this. Story 61. Back in the late 90s when dial-up internet was still the main thing, I created a company for myself over the summer as I wanted to learn to run my own business, and I just wanted to be official. Just odd jobs, yard work, cleaning, maintenance, typical teenager-skilled stuff. I created a business internet account through Sprint. I paid like $125 a month for the dedicated line and internet with unlimited hours. I shut the business down at the end of the summer, heading back into my senior year. I abandoned it essentially. I stopped my payments, but I never canceled the internet account. I kept using it, and I just expected it to shut down one day because I no longer had a business account paying the bill and the business was shuttered. I used that dial-up internet account for the next 3 years till I abandoned it myself, upgrading to DSL. What's even crazier is I found I could have a friend log in on that same account as me at the same time as well, and it would work. I never received any delinquent bills aside from the very first one to the business address, a P.O. box I had, saying I missed my payment, and only one time ever. Story 62. My university was trying to encourage people to walk, so if we downloaded a specific health tracker that's connected to our account, it would convert steps into points. The points would get you stuff like free coffee mugs, discounts for stuff, and the most expensive prize, a university hoodie which costs about $30. Now the health tracking app is pretty basic. It won't let you log your steps manually. However, it does let you connect with other health apps. I found a health app that would let me add in the steps, and I logged in an equivalent of 50 kilometers a day. In a few days of logging manually, I would get myself a hoodie or two, and I didn't get caught. However, I told my friend about it, and he really perfected the method of getting more steps a day because apparently there was a hidden physical limit to how far a person can walk in a day. But he managed to trick it by setting his height to be 1 centimeter, and because the shorter you are, the more steps you need to take to cover the same distance. In the end, he claimed about 10 plus hoodies, and he would just get them for anyone who asked. The uni found it suspicious, so he received an email telling him that the activity had to stop unless he could provide evidence that he walked that much. Another friend had a different method. You get points just by being friends with them on the university health website. He also found that he could access a list of everyone who had an account on that website, so he made a Python script that would automatically send a request to everyone, earning him points. Story 63. I took a survey course in college, which basically amounted to a course the school was planning to offer in the future, but giving the professor an opportunity to fine-tune the curriculum before officially offering it as a class. Easy enough course, got my credit, went home happy. Next semester, the course went live and was offered under a different course number, but the description was identical. I signed up, never attended a class, took the final, and got my credit again. Story 64. There was a lottery at a town fair, and you would walk up to a table to check if you won anything. It was full of prizes gifted by local businesses for charity. Every prize was pre-linked to a ticket with a list. When I handed mine over, the lady said with a big smile, "The big prize wasn't gone yet," while she checked our numbers. I guess she shared this bit of information because most of the prizes were already gone at that point. It was an all-inclusive holiday in Ibiza. I figured because the table was already almost empty, there couldn't be that many tickets left either. I went back to the ticket booth to buy all the remaining tickets and said, "You're very welcome," to the ticket seller, who thanked me extensively for my generosity. I went on holiday to Ibiza with my wife, then girlfriend that summer for $140. Story 65. The first Sunday of the month, museums are free in Paris. My wife and I went to the Musée d'Orsay, but there was still crowd control on the free days and the line to get in looked hopelessly long, like hour-long. I thought maybe we could just reverse enter through the gift shop and nobody would say anything because it's free. It worked. We just walked right on in. Note, this was years ago, so your mileage may vary. Story 66. I discovered that my high school PE teacher graded on improvement. You took a skills test at the beginning of each unit, then one at the end of the unit, and your grade was based on how much you improved. I was not the most gifted athletically and always got C's in PE before this, so I would tank the opening test, then perform my usual mediocrity at the end. But my improvement was awesome, and I became an A student in the last semester of high school PE. Story 67. The city decided to make a retroactive tax on certain businesses which had never been taxed before. You had to pay tax on ticket prices. I discovered that this particular tax ordinance was worded badly. They made an off-by-one error. Tax was incurred on tickets $10 between 11:15, between 16 to 20, etc. Notice no tax between 10 and 11 is between 15 and 16, etc., multiples of 5. Given the nasty way they had done this to us retroactively and with no warning, guess what the ticket prices suddenly all were changed to in this city? Multiples of 5? Because of this, the mayor invited representatives for a talk and decided to waive the tax and not tax us for the first year so we could adjust prices accordingly with the new tax. Story 68. Arby's had a promo where if you signed up for their email, they gave you a coupon for a free entree, no purchase required. So I showed the cashier the coupon on my phone and they just plugged it in. No unique code or anything. It expired in 3 months, so every day at work I got a free sandwich. And on the last day, the cashier said, Oh, we honor expired coupons, and that's how I got completely sick of Arby's. Story 69. In university, I didn't have my own printer and had to swipe my student ID to pay to print anything on the library's printer. They charged something like 10 cents per page. I would go and select the document name off of the touchscreen, then swipe my card, and it would print as well as charge my account. I discovered that if I gave my document a really long name, the computer didn't know what to do with it. So instead of going to the queue, it just bypassed the pay screen entirely and printed for free. Story 70. Back in 2008, I had young kids and was an avid couponer. The store had a sale on Betty Crocker fruit snackers, a type of fruit snack. If you bought 5, you'd get a $3 coupon back, one of those grocery store tape coupons called a Catalina, good off your next order. I noticed those boxes had a separate promo where some had a $5 Discover Card gift card. I bought 5, got my Catalina, and went home. I opened all my boxes, and to my surprise, 3 out of the 5 boxes had the $5 Discover cards. When I put them away, my eye caught something interesting. The expiration dates on the winning boxes were identical. I wondered, could it be that all of those boxes with that expiration date had the gift cards inside? I went back to the store, bought 5 more boxes with that expiration date, got in the car, and eureka, I won 5 more cards. So I decided to go to all the stores in my metro area. Only to fund my purchases, I needed to activate the gift cards via the contest website. After activating a few, I realized it could be suspicious that the same IP address was used to activate multiple cards, so I opted to call the 1-800 number instead, carefully blocking my number before activating each card. I then bought Kroger gift cards to fund my next purchases. I drove to a ton of stores over the next week, and when all was said and done, I had netted $3,000, a ton of food, and enough fruit snacks to give to basically everyone I knew. Story 71. I used to bartend at Uno's. Every fall, we'd sell gift cards for Christmas. For every $20 sold, we'd give a $5 coupon that could be redeemed after the new year. I'd buy myself a gift card and then use it when people paid cash, then keep recharging the gift card and accumulate all the extra $5 coupons. I literally spent all our total dollars on the gift card, but would get around $1 in coupons every year. Story 72. Here we go. Expo 86, public phone in the fraternity. Many men and women were renting rooms at UBC. It had a flaw: call anywhere, no cost. One chick called Tokyo and spoke to her mother for 4 hours. Found out from a roommate that there were male strippers in town. University Times says so. We 2 men went guys, then never ever went to see guys. Imagine this: 250 wild women screaming and going nuts over the Chippendales, all worked up, and 2 young guys in the crowd, which led to multiples. Everybody going nuts over Hot Wheels circa 97-99. I didn't care for the new models. I bribed department store salespeople to hold new cases, gave them bottles of wine, etc., and then flipped the new stuff for vintage stuff. Made thousands, worked at McDonald's at the age of 16 next to my high school. Monopoly days were just launched. All the cashiers were my friends, and when after school I bought a coffee, etc., they handed me 20 or 30 peel and win tickets in a bag. At one point, I had 60 free fries, burgers, drinks, etc. in my wallet. Kept me going 6 months, churning the freebies. Working the hotel brand offers last year for a total of 2 free weeks. Story 73. I never took advantage of this, but I know of people who did. At my college, the ticket for parking somewhere that wasn't a parking spot was cheaper than the ticket for parking without a permit. Furthermore, 1 or 2 of those tickets a week was cheaper than a parking pass for the semester. So people who were only taking a single class would sometimes take advantage of this and park in the grass or in an Area 1 spot past the end and risk the tickets, knowing they'd come out better even if they got a ticket every time. Story 74. Parking at the hospital. The pay machine wasn't working, so I drove to the barrier and pressed the button to speak to the security attendant. A few seconds later, without a word being exchanged in either direction, the barrier opened. This was early on in my dad's hospital stay of about 9 months. I didn't try paying again, Just press the button at the exit barrier every time. Story 75. I have over 26 gigabyte of free storage in my Dropbox account. Not sure if it still works this way, but like 15 years ago, they would give you plus 500 megabytes of space for each signup you referred, up to like 50 referrals, or maybe it was plus 1 gigabit and approximately 25 referrals, but they had to actually install and activate the client for you to get the credit. I set up a little Linux VM and created a save point with just a browser and an unactivated Dropbox client installed in it. Then I used a bunch of throwaway emails to send a ton of referrals. For each one, I would boot the VM, process the next referral in the list, then, and this was the key, shut the VM down and change its MAC ID. Rinse and repeat. As long as the MAC ID changed, Dropbox saw each one as a separate thing. I probably could have automated it, but I got the process down pretty good, so I just spent an evening grinding through them while watching basketball or something. Took a couple hours total. Story 76. I was working maintenance at McDonald's when they did a Best Buy Bucks promotion. Large sodas and large fries had a scratch-off that was worth at least $1 at Best Buy. I would go through the trash daily, pulling out all the discarded scratch-offs. I got a free computer that year for Christmas. I also had the poor cashier at Best Buy in tears. She had to manually scan each scratch-off and verify the dollar amount. Story 77. About 10 years ago, I used to drive across the border to fill up my car with gas because it was about half the cost where I lived. I noticed that credit cards were processed correctly, but when I used my bank card, it never pulled the funds. I tried a few more times, but each time the pump would work normally, but no money would ever leave my account. I filled up every week for about 2 years before a single charge showed up. Guess they must have fixed the issue. Saved thousands. Probably free gas for 2 years was pretty wild. Story 78. Not the craziest thing, but back when Chipotle was dealing with giving people E. coli and then norovirus around 2016 maybe, they gave everyone a free burrito. The method they used was 1 burrito per phone number. I got an app that gave you burner phone numbers and kept using it to get free burritos. I paid $5 for 5 burner numbers at a time, so for each $5 I spent, I'd get 5 maxed out burritos. The real loophole is when you ask for double beans. Wait until they scoop the first round of beans before asking. That way they can't shortchange you on the second scoop or try to half and half their scoops. This last part is only relevant if you love beans as much as I do. Story 79. There was a shuffle you could do on the McDonald's self-service screens where you'd add a cheeseburger and take all the toppings off. They'd refund a bit for every topping, and you'd be left with the $0.10 at the end. Do it like 50 times, and you got a free meal. We did it once or twice to get a free drink in summer before they changed it. Story 80. I didn't find this loophole myself, but my friend did a few years back. An online store had this promotion where whoever spent the most money over a month would get free round-trip airplane tickets to anywhere in the world. My friend, who's a genius, found that one thing you could buy on the site was a gift certificate. So he bought a $25 gift certificate and kept spending it on another $25 gift certificate. He ended up spending $25 on round-trip tickets to Australia.